and welcome to Literarily Wasted. My name is Talia.
I'm Christy.
I am Lucas.
And I am Adam, and this is my little dog friend. Isn't he cute?
Yes, he is. This is the final live discussion of the month. We will be talking about Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Lot to get through.
Okay, wait.
Don't
poison it already.
I'm just breathing. It's fine.
I think to start, we should all talk about something that we liked from this book. Talia, why don't you go first?
All right. I genuinely appreciated how short this book was.
I guess that counts.
The end.
Harsh.
Your turn.
I think that he creates a cool world to explore, and we only get to live in it for really 24 hours.
Thank God.
So,
Sorry.
no, I appreciate some of the stuff that he does, and it's set it up for an epic movie and visualization. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to rewatching the movie now. We are gonna do probably like a live watch party somehow. We gotta figure that out. But no, I think there's definitely some cool things. It is weird. And having watched the movie in the past and then going back and reading the book, it's really weird. I don't think the movie's as weird as the book is, but no, I appreciate. I think it definitely has a place as kind of like a classic science fiction, and it raises a lot of interesting but weird questions.
Well, I really enjoyed this book. I think what I liked the most, and I mentioned this in the last live discussion, is that from the first sentence of this book, you are totally thrown into a very different world. And I really appreciated that, and I enjoyed the whole thing. Adam?
Me. So before I start, I want to say happy birthday to Stephanie Board.
Oh yeah,
Today is Stephanie's birthday. Hey, happy birthday. Stephanie's in the comments, so if you see her, say happy birthday, Stephanie. We also had some other birthdays this month.
If you had a February birthday, give yourself a hand.
Yeah, shout out. I think Jay had a February birthday.
Yeah.
Leanne had a February birthday. So we've got all these birthdays. Yeah. So what I think about the book, I really liked it. I'm in that camp that just really enjoyed this book.
What you liked about it?
Huh? Yeah, what I liked about it. Yeah. So I liked everything, but the thing I really liked about this book was that it's like my kind of sci-fi. It's got all the good sci-fi goodness that I like, and we mentioned this a little bit on the last live stream, but the world it builds is amazing, and the questions it asks is it just captivated me. The whole philosophy behind what this book is about and the symbolism, this classic sci-fi, it just got me. So looking forward to talking about it. Back to you.
So Jean on YouTube said that I am harsh and that it's a classic. Okay. Do not have a problem with anyone else loving this book. I can't even say it. It's just, it was a book. It's just a book. It was just not for me. And just because it's a classic doesn't mean you have to love it. I think we also established that Interview with a Vampire is technically a classic and also, so that's fine. And you know what? There have been many times where my fellow team members have not enjoyed a book, and this is just me. I'm going to just poo-poo on this one a little bit for all the other people out there. I know for a fact I'm not the only one who felt this way. So it's
let's
just
find
solidarity.
Let's find out what other people are saying in the comment section, because I got to sift through everybody wishing Stephanie a happy birthday. But Trish said, I did not like the story as much, but it did provoke the most emotions, which is interesting. And Trish, I think we should talk about that in this discussion. She agrees with you that the book is short. Michelle had a really hard time starting the book, and Vicky says, sounds like Talia's with me and not loving this book. Adrian's asking if everybody's holding the handles of the empathy box, which we all are. We're sharing this experience together. Isn't that nice?
Climbing the hill.
Virginia really enjoyed it. Let's see. Oh, something popped up. Jeff said, I really enjoy books that leave room for interpretation and open doors for discussion. This is what sci-fi does best. Matt says, I'm with Adam. The philosophy and ideas it made me consider were the biggest reason I liked it. Brandy's really enjoyed it.
Dan?
Caitlin Bogg says, I appreciated the world but was glad to leave. And then over on YouTube, Gene says it was a quick read. Mike says, didn't find the book all that weird until the very end. Then I got real confused, and yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Definitely.
that.
We'll definitely talk about that. Yeah, keep chiming in with the things that you liked about the book.
And back on Facebook, Dan Lafferty said, this was among my favorites of the books we've read so far.
Nice. All right, back to you.
Well,
Did you go?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Zone out.
Yeah, first sentence.
Yeah.
And just how it like throws you in. But I mean, I like more than just that. I was very, very impressed once I got used to it.
I think to what some of the people are saying in the comments, and Adam, what you're saying is it's definitely like a thinker's.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you don't like to think. I'm just saying like in the world of like a sci-fi, it's more of a Star Trek and less of a Star Wars.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
it's giving you that kind of, you step back from it and say, well, I wonder what are the ramifications of this, where, you know, like Wool was more like lightsabers and action. So I'm not saying you don't like to think.
But see,
I'm
I
just
do
saying-
like books that make me think. But the reason this one didn't make me think is because I didn't care about the people in it, and I didn't care what was happening. If I had cared, if I had been invested, then I might have put more thought into it. But
Or
was
was
a
it
downer
the
for me.
things that it made you think of made you uncomfortable?
no, I thought it was stupid.
Okay.
Well, and like we talked last time, like he doesn't flesh out the characters a lot so that you can really focus on the themes that he's dealing with.
Well, we talked last time about, and this is for everybody that sort of agreed last time, and I want to see where that went for you at the, now having read the book, but we were talking a little bit about last time about how like the characters weren't very well developed and they're just kind of a vehicle to get you through the story. But by the end of this, I was invested.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of characters that actually made me feel a lot of things through their gaze, and it was interesting getting both of their, you know, Rick's and Isidore's perspective, because reading the Isidore chapter, especially the bit with the spider and stuff, like I was emotionally affected by that.
Oh, and
Oh, for sure.
well, and with you and spiders, like you told me that you felt empathy for the spider, which is shocking because you hate spiders.
I do. I hate spiders, and they terrify me. And there was a spider. You know, I always have to get Christy to kill the spiders, but there was a spider, and I actually said, "Don't kill it," because I feel for spiders now. Just don't let it in the house.
See, I agree. So I felt a lot of empathy for the spider there as well. And so there were those little moments. But overall, I'm noticing. So Vicky said, beyond the story, I don't think the writing style suited me. So honestly, that was a big problem for me too. Because there were moments where I did finally like fall into the story a little bit, or I was trying to connect with a character. But there was something that felt so disjointed about the way the story was being told. And I told Christy, it's almost like this was actually once a much, much larger, more full book. And then they said, hey, can you just write a synopsis for it? Write whatever you remember, and let's make that into a
asked me to
smaller
do
book.
it.
Like, let's do like a Cliff Notes version. And that's what it felt like I got.
So other commenters, Adrian says, it almost had the feel of a short story where there's a lot left out, that you get the feeling the author has a background in his head. Dan says, I'm jealous of Isidore's ability to pick up the spider. I hate them. Susan kills ours. You know what it's like. Nicole says, look, I hate spiders, and that bit made me want to sob. It hurt me so much.
Jeff makes a good point. We should probably talk a little bit about what happened after our stopping point.
Yes.
Yeah, give us a recap.
So where we picked back up for the second half of this book is that I guess they have left the fake police station, and it's Deckard and Phil Resch are going to arrest Luba Luft. So they go to find her. They find her in the museum. I mean, I don't know how detailed y'all want me to be. That's where we started for the second half.
Do you want to just talk us through a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, well, with Luba Luft, I guess she
She did.
she admits that she's an android. She provokes Phil Resch and he kills her. Well, he starts to kill her, and like Deckard has to finish it for him. And then what? They go. Man, I don't even remember. I just looked over the stuff today. He drops off Phil Resch, and then he talks to his wife. Oh, that's when he goes and gets the sheep.
The goat, yeah.
goat.
The
yeah,
goat.
he gets
That
his
part made me
3,000.
so mad.
He gets his 3,000 credits or dollars.
Yeah,
and he
3,000
goes-
down
He
payment.
blew all his money on that goat.
Oh, he blew a lot more money than he had because it was like a 24-month contract, and it was $500 or
Yeah.
$600 a month for 24 months after the $3,000
Yeah,
down
'cause
payment.
he was
that
like,
did.
well,
Then the sex bot pushed it off the roof.
That is way ahead of where we are, but
I was
yes.
so mad. I'm so sorry. Please continue. So angry.
she's not a sex.
It was a
bot.
terrible investment.
It was a terrible investment.
So before he parts with Phil Resch, he does administer the Voight Kampf test, and Phil Resch is not an android based on that. He also figures out that he has empathy for female androids. And then he goes and gets the goat, sorry, not a sheep. And
Black
then,
Nubian.
yes, Black Nubian.
Splat.
His boss tells him he has to go finish the job tonight, which he does not want to do at all.
He needs some sleep.
I
Yeah,
think
he got
he's
some
also
sleep.
reeling from learning that he has empathy for the female robots.
So much has happened, and if you don't have time to cope or sleep, then your brain just goes.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a logical reason for it too. Like, the more time they have, the harder they're going to be to find theoretically and prepare. Then he goes after. Well, he hooks up with Rachel Rosen after trying to get her to help him with the Andes. And he ends up not accepting her help
Well,
After he sleeps with her.
after he sleeps with her, but because he finds out that she's been doing this to bounty hunters, like seducing them so that they have a harder time or that they can't.
so sorry. Please continue.
Talia.
What? It was funny.
Then he goes and meets Isidore. Well, I guess we skipped over all the Isidore stuff.
So they're prepping. So Roy and
Yeah, they're setting up all the booby traps. That guy's not very nice. They talk about murdering him right in front of him and call him a chicken head. The other girl's also really mean and super sadistic and pulls all the legs off. We talked about that. Hate her. Sorry.
this is a good synopsis.
She's mean. I mean, I get it. She's not like mean. It's a total lack of empathy, and it's like a science experiment in her head. But like, it filled me with rage.
Yeah. So Deckard goes and finishes the job, and then things get real trippy. But
And then the end makes no sense. And then there's a frog, and it's not a frog. The end.
right, trippy. But let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back to Luba.
Take us back to the very beginning.
the very beginning of the first part of the second half.
Right.
When he goes and they arrest Luba Luft, he buys her that book of paintings, and I found that whole thing really fascinating. Like, she wanted it, he spent his own money to get it, and it was a lot of money by those standards. And she says she didn't understand humans and that an android would never think to do something like that. And Phil Resch didn't understand it either, although he was.
He also lacks empathy, though, because he got screwed by the robot.
Yeah. And then Phil Resch kills her, or like shoots her, and Deckard has to finish, and then then Deckard burns or destroys the art book. And all of that happened really, really fast. But like, my question is, would y'all have bought her the art book if you knew that you were about to murder her, like within minutes?
If I had bought the art book,
And
I would have
yeah,
kept it.
and then if you bought the art book,
I mean, it was like $30, right? But
it's
I mean, like,
25 according to the
Yeah.
comic. But
But he spent thousands of dollars on a goat. So I feel like, let's not judge this man's budgetary skills.
but why would you destroy that too? That was kind of weird. To
Yeah.
me. It was like,
Because he wasn't supposed to buy her a book.
well, even Phil Resch
It's
was
a
like,
sign
you
of
could have
empathy,
returned it.
which
You
is-
could have kept it. It was a perfectly good book, and she didn't even. Well, it didn't describe her looking at it in the book, but I don't know. What would y'all have bought her that book?
do you think it was just a vehicle to kind of paint that picture more of the empathy?
Maybe, but like
Thing.
it made me start wondering, like, am I an android? Because
Maybe you are.
I wouldn't
Or
have.
was
Can
it?
anyone administer the
It's not
Vortcom?
fiscally a good decision, but maybe did he do it also just to like keep her quiet and get her to shut up and go, so that they could get her out of there, because part of their job was to be discreet.
But she had also kind of shut down. They said like she started looking pale, she looked lifeless, she was just going with the flow. She wasn't helping them, but she wasn't hindering them. She just stopped caring so much. And she perked up when she thought about getting like the art, but I don't think it was to subdue her.
It's interesting that you bring that up too, because the androids that was like their coping mechanism for like, we're about to die.
Yeah.
And because Rachel did it too when he pulled over and was like, I'm gonna kill you now. She was like, okay, make it quick, please. And then and then he was like, I'm not gonna do it. She's like, oh, good. I've been manipulating you this whole time and I win.
And then he still let her go.
Yeah, he still let her go.
Because he's stupid.
But
Well, he did admit that was the worst mistake he made.
Yeah, because then she went goat pushing.
Yes, she did. Which is really
Go pushing.
That
push
part
it
is-
off of the
stop.
roof. Go.
that part's really interesting too. That she cared enough to go punish him by killing his goat.
Yeah, so she was mad.
Yeah, she was really angry.
So they can feel anger, but
Spiteful.
not empathy.
Yeah. Well, she said that he loved his wife more than her, and he loved
No shit.
his goat more than her, and he just gotten the goat. But I don't know. I thought that was really interesting.
So there's an
petty
interesting
plea
conversation going on in the comments section.
Yeah.
Let me just catch y'all up. Matt Scalisi and Adrian are talking, and I don't remember where it started, but we're talking about the philosophy behind the book. Virginia says it was an easier read. Matt started talking about The Stranger, which is this existentialist classic. But he's making a comparison, a sense of ennui, desolation, and then Matt continues, as a person who struggled with depression, I actually connect with stories that touch on that idea. Depression is very dehumanizing. This book is all about how alienation can make it hard to know what's real or human. And then further that, Adrian says, ooh, interesting about the depression. It brought some aspects of it out in her. And I wonder if that affects how people interpret things differently in this book. It's pretty heavy. There's a lot of heaviness going on. And I think that's an interesting conversation, because it brought some of that out in me as well. Just, the general sense of ennui and malaise that is prevalent throughout this book. I just thought it was an interesting thing going on in the comments. A lot of good discussion happening. Keep that up. That's good stuff. But back to you.
Well, talking about the book, Jeff Moore said, is buying the book a way to reduce his guilt over what was about to happen? And yeah, probably. I didn't even think of that. And especially since he's just figuring out that he has empathy towards the female androids, I bet all of that plays into that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, why did Rick burn the book? What do y'all think?
I assume that was just to get rid of the evidence for real. That, he was empathizing with androids.
Oh, that makes sense too. Yeah, y'all are answering all my questions.
I genuinely don't know, because I don't understand the thought process behind a lot of his decisions.
Well, and to Christy's point, that part happened really quickly, so it was kind of like, whoa, and yeah, I mean, it's a
The
very
pacing-
short glimpse of this world that we get.
The pacing was a struggle for me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The pacing was very interesting and really fast. Well, let's talk about Phil Rush. Do y'all think Phil Rush was an android?
I don't. If Rachel, if he was part of Rachel's plan, and she slept with him to try to. I mean, her whole
Oh,
plan
that's
is
true.
is like, Rachel as a character is very fascinating to me, and sort of what she does and how she manipulates people, and if he was part of that manipulation, although she said that he was the only one that didn't get attached, right? Didn't she mention that? Like when she's like, oh yeah, I slept with your friend. She was like, yeah, but he didn't. He's not like you. He kept going. Like
Yeah.
all the other bounty hunters had to quit or something, right?
Yeah.
But he was full of anger because of it.
Yeah, he was very angry. which is interesting.
It's like a vengeance thing. Now he wants to take all the androids down.
Yeah, so that had the opposite effect. But he still let her go.
Yeah.
Don't bite.
Well, as far as Phil Rush goes, Luba Luft and Inspector Garland both said that he was an android, but then he passed the Voight-Kampff test. So, I don't know.
So-
But Inspector Garland was an android, and
Yeah.
Luba
Yes.
Luft was an android, right?
Yes.
Interesting.
And oh my gosh, what's his name? I just said it like 4 times. Oh, Phil Rush. He was part of the police station that was
that's
full
where,
of androids.
That's where I'm confused, because it was like, we never even heard of you, and we've never even, like, who are you kind of
And how come the
thing,
whole
so
department is allowed to exist if it's all full of Andes?
yes.
Well, also, Phil Rush said he'd been working there for like 6 years or something, and so he has those recessed memories that aren't real. Like, there's a lot of evidence that he is an android,
Yeah,
even though he passed that test.
None of this makes sense.
I don't know. When I was reading it, I was leaning more towards he was an android.
Yeah, me too.
And because even Deckard's like, well, you know, a lot of times in this case, once the android figures out it's an android, they'll just take care of themselves
Yeah.
and put them out of commission, kind of thing. So, I took it that he was.
And I think it's really interesting how Deckard, I guess the rules of bounty hunting, if they come across a android that's not on their list, they don't have to do anything about it. Because he even said that. He's like, you're not on my list. And he went to the police station. They only killed one person from the police station. You know there were other people there that he's been told are androids. And it's just, he moved on without even a second thought.
Jennifer says maybe he was hinting that the test doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And Scott said, remember that Buster Friendly is also an android, so the deep fake runs deep.
But how do people
Also,
not
is it all a
know-
mystery, or are these just plot holes?
Did we get confirmed that Buster Friendly was an android?
I believe so. I
The
think
android said he
the
was.
android said that he was, like
Okay.
Roy and all them.
Yeah, they said he's one of us, and it makes sense if he's able to go on like 24 hours a day or whatever.
Yeah, it's like more than that. It was like 30 something hours a day. But also, I was looking over the text from when he was doing his big announcement, and he was like the alleged fusion with Mercer, and he's obviously never done the empathy box, and I thought that was evidence too.
So I thought it was kind of weird. So you find out in the Rachel scene, I think it's the Rachel scene, that they basically have a shelf life of 4 years. And so she's 2 years into this 4-year shelf life because their cells don't regenerate like humans. And so I was thinking of these other androids coming back from Mars. We know that you can get from Seattle to, you know, San Francisco in like an hour, but like still, you're gonna have to travel from Mars to Earth. This was a plot hole for me. That's gonna take time. And why do we care that they're androids to a degree if they're just gonna have a shelf life and just die off? It's like, why would you take the time to go find these creatures?
Just let them die.
Yeah, I mean,
No, that's a
at
really
that
good
point, it's
point.
kind of like, well, who cares if they're just going to go holed up in some junky old apartments on
or
the
join the
outskirts?
community. Like, they weren't doing anything
Yeah.
bad.
They just wanted to pretend and blend in. Also,
Yeah.
I think they've taken over Mars. I think all the humans are dead.
I think they might have taken over Earth too.
Maybe
actually.
we'll find out more when we watch the movies. I don't know. That is the one thing I'm really excited about. Is like, this was just like a short little glimpse into the world, and I agree with Talia. Like, you don't have time to really bond with any of the characters, nor did I feel like a really deep connection to any one of them. But I was like, this is cool premise, and so taking that and like, I can already think of scenes in the movie that I will understand better having read this. And I know that like a lot of people really liked 2049, and I want to see just kind of where the concept spins, even though I know it's not Philip K. Dick. It's just like I want to live in that world a little bit more.
Now, I don't know what it says about me, but I really identify with Isidore.
Aww.
He was a great character.
He was the only one that was kind. So how about that? Because I tried to feel sympathetic towards what's his face, Deckard, And then when all that stuff with Rachel went down, I stopped caring because I didn't like him anymore.
Well, Mercer even told Isidore, like, you're a better person than me. Like, you have better morals. Like, and
He's the only one, like, he knew. They were like, hey, let's kill the chicken head. And he helped them anyways. He's the only one who was nice.
going back to, like, why they didn't just let the Andes be, let's see. Jeff Moore said, these androids killed many humans when they left Mars.
right, I
Brandy
forgot.
Dietz says, but they killed people. Yeah, so they were assigned to a human, and they killed that human and probably others to get to Earth. So that definitely puts it in a different context.
Or all of them. They killed all of them.
It's
Mars
possible.
Is just robot parts.
But
Totally
if they were
possible.
just left to their own accord, but I guess they're, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and without empathy, they
Yeah.
can definitely kill again, and maybe not for any good reason.
So what's the moral of this story? Don't make robots. Don't make robots that can think. Don't make robots with faces or other parts. Just don't make robots. It's not worth it.
This isn't the first. I mean, there's so many stories in science fiction that deal with the concept of artificial life, and are they, you know, what happens if they get to a point where they're basically sentient life forms? You know, like a lot of the Asimov stuff and Battlestar Galactica, the new Battlestar, not the old '70s one, with the Cylons, who are basically like people. You can't even tell who's a person and who's a Cylon. And because I love those other things, I really enjoyed this book's take on it, because it's, you know, it's an earlier take. It's a classic. So yeah.
Jennifer Spiegelman had a good comment about continuation of the story on Facebook here with some sequels that were written to intend to tie it all together. So in 1995, Blade Runner 2, The Edge of Human. In 96, The Replicant Knight. In 2000, I and Talon. And they were official and authorized sequels written by Dick's friend K.W. Jeter. So if you want to continue the story, go look those up. That's
I'll
from
pin that comment
Wikipedia.
for the time being, so y'all can see what that's
Caitlin
like.
Smith says, can someone explain the empathy box to me? I thought it put them in a deep meditation, but how was Rick bleeding from a rock being tossed at him? I feel like I missed something about how it works. If you missed it, then so did I, because I don't understand what it is either, or...
I had a hard
anything
time
about it.
visualizing and understanding the empathy box.
I know it has handles.
I actually did not have a hard time visualizing it. Why?
you have
Because
one.
I read the graphic novel.
Ah,
So, you know, for those, what?
But it doesn't explain, like, how people can get actually injured from...
Oh, no, I had no idea. I don't know how that
rocks
works.
and
It's all
Psychosomatic.
psychosomatic, says Scott, which means it's all in your head.
Which means
So
everyone's crazy.
Buster Friendly, when he's debunking Mercerism, says, if we're to believe its many practitioners, the experience fuses men and women throughout the soul system into a single entity, but an entity which is manageable by the so-called telepathic voice of Mercer. Probably doesn't help, but I thought that description was interesting.
That's a lot of words.
But it does, you do get a sense of merging with a bunch of people, and you all share your thoughts and your emotions and your feelings, and you're also kind of merging with Mercer. I thought Mercer's role in this got so big and kind of out of hand by the end of this book.
I don't understand. How did he appeared? What?
Well, okay, he did say, well, first of all, Deckard had a conversation with him while he was at his house using the empathy box. And then when he went to Isidore's apartment complex, he ran into Mercer just on the stairs. And Mercer said it's because he's there because of Isidore. Isidore, like, infused the building with Mercerism.
you must go to
So
the
it's very-
Dagobah
this is-
system.
This is really, yeah, do we want to just talk, like, about the end? Because
Yeah, let's do
there are
it.
people
I don't
talking,
get
you know, Caitlin Boggs says the end got cray, and I agree with that. And Mike said it earlier in YouTube. I was with it, and then the end happened, and I was, and both from Isidore's perspective and from Deckard's perspective, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Because of what they were experiencing, but also like the implications And like these are some really bold implications from Philip K. Dick. Jeff says, I felt the end was a big indictment of religion and how truth does not matter in the face of facts.
Wait, he amended it.
You
In the
fixed
face
it.
of faith.
In the face of faith. So yeah, I was wondering.
I was about to say, truth and facts are the same thing.
So truth does not matter in the face of faith. But so we had sort of these two competing sort of religions in this book. We had Buster Friendly and we had Mercerism. Mercerism was this bonding with the empathy box. Buster Friendly was just a talk show host. But there were these like, you know, sort of religious beliefs around these two characters. And Mercerism, I have honestly, like, I have no idea. So if you in the comments have some thoughts, please chime in, because Mercerism became real in the book. And I read the graphic novel. So Isidore manifested Mercer, and then Deckard manifested Mercer when he went on his like spirit quest to go climb the rock.
Yeah.
Did he actually do that, or did he grab the handles? I don't know, but it seemed like he actually did, because then he's like calling people from his car.
No, that didn't have anything to do with the empathy box. I'm assuming that's because of what Isidore did in his building. Like, I think Deckard running into Mercer there had some sort of weird fusion effect.
So let's go back to the comments.
I don't understand.
It was weird.
Matt Scalisi, I'm gonna lean on you a lot through this conversation. The only thing I can think of that Dick might have been going for with Mercerism is an attempt to explain religious furor and the popularity in a world where people are alienated by technology. When so much of daily life loses its meaning, religious experiences can replace that. Dick obviously believes religion ultimately doesn't change anything except perception. Adrian says, is it a mirroring of like bleeding statues and the like, the appearance of Mercer as though Jesus appears to people?
Well, and it's not just how Mercer appears to people, it's also the miracle that he did. He like brought the spider back to life, and then he healed it like
But did
several
he, or
minutes
was it
later.
a hallucination? Just like the rocks are a hallucination.
I think he really did heal the spider. I think he brought it back to life and he healed it. And then he had the electric, he had the electric toad out there for Deckard. But then there was a question of, was the spider real or was it electric too?
And was Mercer real? Because none of it makes sense.
Yeah, I
It
think
honestly, it made me think of, this is terrible. It just made me think of Jesus in South Park. Like how they just like, every now and then he just shows up.
He's like, hey,
What's up, you guys?
got my talk
And then
show.
he leaves.
I mean, we already summed it up. The end was cray,
Yes.
but it really was. But it asked a lot of questions, and I don't have answers to them. But I was very, like, it didn't like throw me off. I wasn't like so thrown off that I was like, I'm done with this. It didn't check me out. It just asked more questions, kind of like Lost. And then maybe you get to the end and you're like, oh, you didn't answer any of my questions. But the ride was fun.
One thing about Mercerism, Buster Friendly and the Friendly Friends were so against Mercerism because they couldn't participate. But Mercerism, by the end of the book, you knew that Mercer like respected electric lives too, like with the toad. And there was even a line that says, the electric things have their lives too, paltry as they are. I do think that Mercer does probably respect android lives, and he even said Deckard, what he's doing is wrong, but then he encouraged him to do it with killing the last 3 androids. I don't know.
I think
Yeah.
I would be inclined to join a religion that was simply just called Buster Friendly and the Friendly Friends.
I mean, it is a
sounds
great
nice.
name.
Right? It sounds like we're all just supposed to be nice to each other, and that sounds great.
Yeah, but Buster Friendly, he teased this huge announcement throughout the video, and then like debunked Mercerism.
I loved that part, and what I really loved was the parallel of Buster Friendly proving that empathy isn't everything and Mercerism is so flawed, but it's paralleled with Pris torturing this spider in
Yeah.
front of Isidore, and like that mirroring each other was just so great for me. Like, they don't have empathy, and it also shows exactly why empathy matters. Like, they're torturing the spider and they're torturing Isidore.
Oh, he was so sad.
Hey, Gene. I fixed it.
Oh, the panda.
I fixed the panda. You're welcome.
Joey called dibs on electric spiders as a band name.
It's a good,
Dang
it's
it.
good.
That's good.
It's fine, I can't play any instruments.
We'll listen.
Send us the link.
Oh, something else I really liked. At the end, Deckard is done. He's like totally wiped out. And it says, "I've been defeated in an obscure way." And this was after he had already finished killing all 6 of the Nexus 6s. Like, do y'all think that he was defeated even after finishing that?
Well, he murdered a lot. He slept with a robot. His goat got pushed off a building. He found a frog, got super excited. The frog was a robot. I mean, that's a pretty crappy day.
That's a lot in 24 hours, and
Yeah.
that's what I was sitting here wondering, where do they go from here? You know, I mean, like, he was like, "Hey, honey, got a goat." It's not like, "Oh, and by the way, I slept with an android." You know, it's like
he didn't
doesn't
tell her?
No, he doesn't. But it's just like he just blows by that, you know. And so like, there's got to be so much baggage between those two, and dialing
you know there
moods and
is.
stuff.
We
So
spent all of our income.
yeah,
now and
and
future.
and literally
on a goat.
you could change your life. And I found it so weird that the people are so eager to have an animal in this world that I guess you could compare it to a lot of stuff in our own world today, but it's like they're so eager that they will put themselves in like financial jeopardy to have that thing, and he's got it.
Well, that's
you
part
know?
of.
So
It was
what
part
were
of
you
Mercerism, wasn't it? Like, wasn't that like a thing that you gotta own an animal? So here's an interesting thing.
Ew.
Going back to what Talia was saying, and it reminds me of that Star Trek episode that I mentioned last time, Measure of a Man, because the guy who puts Data on trial for not being a life form and being property of Starfleet always calls Data it. And when Talia was speaking just now, she said he murdered lots of people. So, you mean the androids?
That's because Talia has empathy.
Yes, I do, because I am not an Andy, and also I don't really care enough about
'Cause-
anything in this book
Because
to have
Jeff
a real
said,
argument with you.
is it murder? That's the question.
Well,
So is it adultery?
Yes, it is.
I'm
Gene
just-
said, okay, so we're starting this is on YouTube.
it's not-
Gene said, Gene
I knew we
said,
were going to get to this point
is
in the
sleeping with an
conversation at
android
some
cheating?
point.
Yes, it is. And here is why. I did not want to have this conversation at all.
Well,
It's super not fun. Because here's the difference. I can't even say it. Good Lord.
he felt that it was cheating, so I think
It's also against the rules. There's like a big law that says no, don't have sex with the robots. So 1, he broke the rule. 2, he's married. So cheating, if you want to think of it as simply a mental and emotional factor, not a physical act, think of what he did. Since he has empathy towards these female androids, he sees them as more than just a tool. It's not a fleshlight, it's a person. And so for him, this was cheating. He saw Rachel as a real person, enough to where when he realized he was being manipulated, it did break him. That is a real emotional and mental thing that happened. Also, it all sucks and I hate it.
I just liked how she was like, just don't think about it too much or else you won't be able to finish or something like that. It was
Because that's
it's like
yuck.
just don't think too hard about
Yuck.
what you're doing. I gotta find that
Jeff
quote.
says, let's be clear about one thing. Deckard and his wife were living in a loveless marriage anyway.
Oh, so that makes it okay. I don't think y'all want to go down this road.
okay. So going back
Thank you.
to Deckard being defeated, Virginia says once he made the empathic connection to the androids, it became murder for him. He was no longer just performing a job task. And I think I think he was defeated, but I think he was defeated because it became murder and because he killed the androids. He finished the job, and that's what defeated him.
Christy, be careful with your thing on your mic.
Puppy. Aw.
Lucas,
Sorry.
you made a point. What happens? Yeah. What
Wow,
happens
look at me.
after all of this? What does happen after all of this? Does Deckard find a new job? Does he go back to bounty hunting? Like, what happens after he gets a good night's sleep and recovers from all of this?
That's
Is that my book? Please don't bend it. We have to sell that back to Second and Charles.
yeah. You can sell your used books back to Second.
Yeah, I'm not keeping that copy. Don't bend it.
I don't know, and I know we kind of maybe explore that in the movies, but well, and so with the goat, like the goat, for instance, so he blows $3,000. He can't get that back because it was it wasn't like an illness or something.
Right.
So he's out that $3,000.
And he has to keep paying. He has
And
to
he has
keep
to keep
paying
paying
for
the
the
loan.
spot on the ground.
Right, the splat spot. So it's not like he's got all this money and he can, you know, emigrate or something like that. Like, I don't know. What do you do at that point? And I think he alludes like there's other departments or something he could transfer into, or maybe am I making
Oh
that
yeah,
up?
he did definitely say
he's-
that.
So he says that, but it's just, I don't know. It's so desperate and desolate that, you know, they're just these shells of people living and dialing moods. That's so weird to me. I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to respond really quick to Adrienne. Adrienne on Facebook says, I find it interesting to watch Talia get emotional about cheating, but the last book had a bunch of, where to go, child murder, and everyone went with it. Okay, let's be clear. I still cried a lot reading every single Red Rising book. Tons of tears, tons of darkness every single time, to the point where I've actually had to take a break. I finished Iron Gold, haven't read Dark Ages yet, and I had to take a substantial break because it was literally starting to like put me in a dark place. So that also is really heavy, but one no does not outweigh another. Continue.
One thing I thought was really interesting was when Pris was talking to Isidore about her life on Mars, sort of, and her past, she was so disappointed in the colonization efforts. And I think there was the idea that most androids are. And I want to know, are the humans as disappointed with it as the androids are? Like, the androids are disappointed enough to kill the people that they're supposed to be doing and then flee to Earth. Like, is colonizing or like leaving Earth, is that so great? Because from her perspective, it's really not.
I don't know.
She said they didn't do it the right way. Like, no one is meant to live there. It's too old. I don't know, I really wish we had gotten a little bit of perspective outside of Earth. Like, I would have loved to see what that looks like.
We did. We got like this very propaganda-esque video.
same
Remember with
thing.
that old lady
That
who was
doesn't
like,
count.
I live on Mars and it's great now. I have my own robot.
Yay.
Yeah.
She says, it's convincing if you don't think too much about it. But if you think too much, if you reflect on what you're doing, then you can't go on.
Vomit.
Remember, though, don't think about it.
I mean, that's pretty
I
good
thought we were
advice.
still talking about Mars.
Pretty good advice.
We are.
There's an interesting
Just to Mars.
thing in the comment section that I saw. I mean, you're having good conversations. It's hard for me to keep up, actually. It's nice. But somebody asked, and I'm trying to find it, why did his wife feel the need to take care of the toad in the
right.
end? What do y'all think?
I think it's part of the way that she does care for him. Like,
I think she does. I think she does care for Deckard. She's depressed. She's obviously going through a lot of her own heavy, dark stuff.
yeah.
But Mercerism means something to her. She is searching desperately and clinging to every ounce of empathy she can find while not just going through the motions. She's obviously tired of that if she's searching for something else and willing to feel depressed in order to feel something else. So I think this is her way of continuing to go forward. This is where she goes from here.
It might
She's
also-
willing to continue.
Yeah, it might also help her to care for something, even if it is electric.
Yeah.
And Mercerism does put a big, I guess, responsibility on that, like having an animal, even if it is an electric
And
animal.
they're sad and they're lonely. They don't have their sheep anymore. They definitely don't have a goat. I mean, at least
I think they do have their
this is
electric sheep.
something. They know what's wrong.
Yeah.
And they already told their neighbors that
Yeah,
the
they
sheep was
did.
electric. So
So we were discussing earlier, Deckard, like you mentioned him being defeated at the end, and is he not? And it made me it got me thinking just now about all of the characters and sort of their representations in the book, and of all of the characters, to me, at the beginning of this book, Deckard was the most robotic. He was the most like everything's sort of black and white. I mean, even Isidore sort of believed what he believed. Oh, Matt, I'm going to get to that. What are you talking about, Picard? I see you. He was the most robotic, and Isidore sort of had his simple view of things. But Deckard was the robot, and all of the people that he encountered along the way, specifically Rachel and the other androids, like those felt like more like people to me. And by the end of the book, Deckard was really wrestling with what should be just like natural human feelings and emotions. That he was becoming attached to things. He was like, he was feeling like sadness and love and like things that he hadn't felt for a while unless he dialed it into a machine. The real like human people were a lot of the times the androids. His wife was like one of the more human people. She was the one that actually wanted to feel naturally and didn't want to have to dial things into a box. And so, like, was he defeated? Yeah, his like robotness was killed by the end of the book, which I think is really fascinating. And maybe I'm way off base, but that's what it seemed like to me, and I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
So if I kill robots, I become more human.
So Gene on YouTube made a point about everybody on Earth is dying from the radiation. And this actually connected to something else for me, but I don't want to talk about it on here because it's a spoiler for something else. But if you have watched the show The Good Place, please start a thread in the group and I will jump in later. Make sure not to post any spoilers or give a warning at the top and bury your comments down. But if you watch the finale, the final episodes of The Good Place, I want to connect it to this. Let's talk later.
Also on YouTube, Mike says the wife telling him the toad was artificial was the most crushing part of the book for me.
That sucked.
And I totally agree with that because I was so excited with him. I was feeling
Like,
all
they
of
could
that
get all the money and
great
sell the
stuff.
toad
Yeah.
or something.
No, just love it. He was so excited.
But
he
it
loves
was
his
gonna.
goat.
It was like the only one. So if they were
He
able
was
to sell
finally
it, though,
gonna
it
have a
would
real animal.
Both though, like his financial things
Yeah.
were over, and he has a real live animal that Rachel probably won't get to, and then it's electric, and that was crushing.
Oh yeah,
Such a
this
bummer.
book crushed me several times at the end. Like starting with the climax with the spider and all that stuff.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Is that really
Th-
where the
like,
climax
I
started? or
felt,
was it
I
earlier?
felt, hey, okay. I really felt a lot of things, and at the end of this book, and it actually made me feel a lot more than like some of the other books we've read in this book club, which I was really surprised because early on I was like, this is kind of like a philosophy book, but then I really started to feel. Jane Shin on Facebook, hey Jane, says, I think Deckard is probably broken in a way that others haven't seen before. He seems like he's always tough and independent, and maybe now that his wife sees him as something to take care of and finds new purpose in that, it reminded me of the wife of the guy whose cat died. Deckard was very able to, Dan Lafferty says Deckard was very able to keep detached and leave emotions out of it, other than lusting for Rachel, of course. His life got flipped, turned upside down. Says Jess, well, he's a different man.
We also did never go back to the cat. I didn't get closure on the cat,
Yeah.
but whatevs.
I would really love for us to talk about the association, the group that is making the androids. why are they trying to make androids indistinguishable from humans?
That's a really good question.
Because they keep upgrading them, and they wait for them to make a test that identifies them as androids, and then they
Figure out how to break it.
figure out how to break it. Yeah.
Are they androids? Are they
Yes,
the masters? They're
I
running
truly
Mars.
believe that the association is run by
They
androids.
own Buster Friendly and Mercer. The whole thing's just a big friggin' plot hole joke. None of it makes sense.
I was with you until the end.
I'm
there.
sorry. Like, but no, like you're right. That they're why? Why would humans do that?
I don't think it's humans that's doing it. I think it started as humans, and then they kind of got taken over by
Mm-hmm.
androids.
See, these are questions that I don't exactly look at as plot holes and more of like puzzles to
I
be
love
solved.
it. Yeah, I think it's fascinating.
They're philosophical questions and about like, you know, especially as we as a society, and remember this was written in the 60s, but as
Yeah,
we
that's
as a
crazy.
society like move towards that very real thing. I mean, we've got you know, people that are altered now, like with either through like, you know, making them able because of disability or like enhancements. Like we have that, and we have artificial intelligence technology that gets there, and it's a sci-fi concept that loves me, that I love. Matt says, makes me think about the Turing test. Once humans can no longer tell the difference between a human and a computer, is there actually any difference? That's it right there. What is the difference, and why make the distinction? You know, what makes a life form? And in that Star Trek episode, because I just rewatched it, you know, they put the guy on trial, and they're like, what makes something sentient? What makes something a sentient life form? He has like 3 criteria: self-awareness, and then the other 2 that I forgot. But like, are you not just at some point like creating a different form of life?
Well, speaking of Star Trek, Adam, you know, in the first season of Next Generation, there is an episode where
Okay.
Tasha Yar and Data have
They get intimate.
romanticism.
They do.
Okay, so
Good point.
Joe
Thank
on
you.
Facebook says, I think the androids are keeping humans as pets and therefore are the true followers of Mercerism. I dig it. Vicky also said somewhere, I lost it, but she brought it up. Yeah, wasn't there a part talking about how some of the androids, the not Rachel, was addicted to drugs? Am I making that up? Wasn't there a thing like when she was on Mars?
Pris
maybe?
was, yeah, and they're
So, but Pris
That's,
is
what,
Rachel,
that's not
right?
Rachel. Yeah, that's what I said.
yeah, and the Batty, what's his name?
So like there's a
Roy.
Roy Batty. He was a pharmacist.
yeah. We haven't touched on that at all. I found that really weird. I was like, why are all the robots taking drugs?
Well, they're on Mars. Wouldn't they hate it? So it might have something to do with that.
Is it real hate? It's a robot hate.
Could it do something with like the cell
there a difference?
regeneration too? Like, could there be? I don't know.
Synthetic hate? Real drugs? I don't know. That part I just thought was strange to me because that
Yeah.
seems like such a human thing. That is such a human thing to fall and become susceptible to an addiction or get lost in these little things of escapism. Why
And I think that's
why were the Andes
exactly
doing
right.
it?
That I think you nailed it. Like, why even bring that up?
Why were the Andes doing it?
Why bring it up and not do anything with it? I think just that fact existing is a point about the blurry line between androids and humans. Like, these androids can become addicted to drugs. Why are we hunting them? Why are we considering them it and not, you know, people? Like, that's the thing. Those are the questions. Back to you.
Well, they also loved old science fiction.
Oh,
Novels.
Leanne says they were taking drugs to try to experience empathy.
That makes sense. I'm assuming it did not work after the spider incident, or because of the spider incident.
Or she did not retain it.
Yeah.
I have a question. So when we first get introduced to Pris in the apartment with Isidore, and she introduces herself as Rachel Rosen.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the name of her model?
It took me so long
is
to
that the
figure
na-
out that there are different people. Like I waited a really long time.
But is that's the name of the model then? I mean, I don't know. I just thought that was.
It's probably part of the embedded memories. I bet they have an identity,
shared-
and that's part of
shared identity.
the name. Oh, there's also just the point of the Rachel Rosen model. We've already talked about the fact that she seduces bounty hunters to kind of get them off their game. But also, oh gosh, where was I going with that?
The implications of the Rachel model.
Yeah,
That was Scott's question
yeah,
or discussion topic.
yes.
Well, think on that. I'm going to circle back because Mike said something on YouTube that sort of answers a question that we had about why the corporation is creating more realistic robots. Mike says they said their customers were demanding more realistic androids. I wonder if they're using them to fill in for a lack of human connection in their lives.
Probably. There was also the theme of if you don't have a human connection, that you're not really living. Like Isidore felt that big time.
Well, he didn't at first, and then he met the androids and all of a sudden felt like he needed people in his life. Because at first he was okay with just having Buster Friendly around, and then the androids came and stayed with him, and he's like, I love these people. These are my best friends. I'm going to go help them out. And they're like, we're going to kill you later. Put that thing over there and shut up. And he's like, yeah, okay, I will, because you're my friends. And that made me sad.
Adrienne on Facebook says, why is empathy the ultimate test? Why not love, hate, jealousy, or anger? I think that's really interesting. And I like to think that it's because those other emotions are easier to fake. They say love and hate are very closely related. Jealousy and anger, I feel like all those things, those are visceral reactions that are probably easy to duplicate. But empathy, true caring for another human, well, when you're an android, you can't because you're not a human. I liked that empathy was, I will say that was probably my favorite thing about this book that I didn't like, was that so much of it circulated around empathy. That was the religion, that was what was taught, that was what was encouraged, was taking care of others, the importance of having the pet, like this bonding together, sharing experiences with others.
Trish Brannon.
That's great.
Yeah, Trish Brannon said animals were the pinnacle of empathy in this book.
That's true. Leanne says, empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's place to feel what they feel so you would know exactly how your actions toward them would feel and affect them. It's a lot harder to kill someone if you feel that. Jennifer says empathy is stepping outside yourself. Those other emotions are only about you. And we saw that with the androids. They had a hard time doing that and like relating to other people.
Well, even other androids. They said in the first half of the book, like, an android won't help another android.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Even though we kind of see the opposite
Yeah.
with Pris and the two baddies.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And Dan says, yet the characters were all lacking empathy, including Deckard, honestly. Because he was. He was just kind of like, he didn't really empathize with his wife. He didn't care to understand what she was going through. He just said, just dial in the need to dial something and you'll be all right. Let me go do
He
this.
also never really used the empathy box. His wife always bugged him to use it, and he didn't really.
Yeah, he didn't really have that. But I think by the end he did. He had empathy towards like androids, which is like, how do I have empathy towards a thing that I literally should not have empathy towards because they're machines, they're toasters, you know? But yeah, it's so good. Back to
Can
you.
we do a poll?
We can do a poll.
If you've seen the movie and read the book, which did you like better?
Ooh, that's a good poll.
Okay, hang on. Give me a second.
But
Talk
so,
amongst yourselves.
I will say I really do want to watch the movie, mostly because I have been assured that the book and the movie are quite different.
And I posted something really cool in the lounge group about all the models. It's really cool. You know, it's not a lost art form, but with CGI and everything being so prevalent now, the care and attention that they put into the model work really shows, and it's just a treat, like visually and audio wise. It's just so cool, and I feel like the movie amps it up that much more. I will say movie for me, while Adam's getting that going, just because you're able to, and it feels way more alive. Like it feels like there's not a lot of people in this, obviously, but it feels almost too sparse. That it's like you've got a couple buildings and not a lot of stuff in between, because he doesn't really talk a lot about it.
Cat Moss on YouTube makes a great point. He says, I don't know, I'm sorry, you're a cat. Says, in a world that's dying, it would be so easy to fall for every man for himself. Empathy would be necessary to survive. And I think that's a great point. Yeah, if the world is ending, what's the only thing that can tie the human race together is caring for one another and empathy. Otherwise, yeah, it becomes like every other dystopian movie that we've seen, where it's just bloodbath war all the time to survive.
So there's a poll, it should be live in the thing. If you're seeing
I
it,
see it. I see
congratulations.
it.
If you don't see it,
Give me a
I
minute.
don't know, Facebook. But which do you like better, the book or the movie? The poll's up. We'll give it just a few minutes, because we're a little over time.
Sorry,
but-
we kind of did the poll like in the last minute.
Well, it's fine. While the poll is happening, let's go ahead and remind y'all, if you've just been a silent participant for this live stream, this is the final live stream of the month, which means we're giving away a Mostly Mystery Box. Yay! So make one comment. Just throw it out there. Multiples really don't count. It doesn't make a difference. So just say hi, say what your favorite part was, say what your least favorite part was, doesn't matter. And you'll be entered into that random drawing to win a super cool Mostly Mystery Box. Thank you to Second and Charles for always letting us do our live streams here, and for also, like, they pay for the Mostly Mystery Box, and it's all super cool stuff from Second and Charles, so yay again. Next month, if you haven't already gotten it, you can grab it. Also, 20% off at Second and Charles. Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World by Haruki Murakami. Super excited for this weirdo.
Acid trip.
Yeah.
And Lucas, did you want to talk about Sunday?
Okay,
yeah.
so Sunday night. So I've had this idea for a while now, and we're just gonna do it. So so I asked you guys a while back, what night's a good night for some bonus content? And Sunday night, I think I'm just gonna say 8-ish Central. Might be a little late,
You're on your own, I'm going to
7:30,
bed.
because I have something Sunday night, and so I got to get home and get everything set up. So I'm gonna say around 8 p.m. Central. We're going to do something called Adventures in Reading. It's going to be an experiment. I was saying this could be a one and done, but we're going to take a choose your own adventure book and do a live reading, and you guys are going to choose the path that we go on. We're going to have a health meter, so if we reach the end of a point, we can go back, so we'll have like a little heart gauge. But I don't know, I never really got to read those books as a kid, and I thought this would be a fun experiment to kind of, hang out, have another excuse, honestly, just for us all to hang out. So we'll read a page, or about a page, and then talk about, where do we want to go next, and kind of choose as a group, and then we'll move on. So
Yay, Sunday night snacks and
yeah,
reading.
so Sunday night, if you want to join, I'd love to hang out with you guys. Tally will be there, and Adam and Chris, you'll probably be in the comment section, hopefully. But yeah, so Adventures in Reading, Sunday night around 8 Central.
Also, Kessa on YouTube.
Well,
says
you got
that she
everybody
likes
in
my
the
haircut.
comments that are very
Thank
excited
you.
about it. You got a lot of people that are in.
Oh, Ian says, what is the status on the podcast thing? Well, Ian, since you're one of the few left in here, we do have our podcast up. So we will make a bigger announcement. I'm working to populate all of the old episodes, so I am having to kind of go back in and edit. So it's taking a little bit longer, but if you want to, go pull up podcasts, especially most people are going to do it on their iPhone, but we should be on Spotify, Pocket Casts, most of the major ones, Google Play. So search Literarily Wasted, and do us a favor, find it, subscribe. Even if you don't listen to it, rate it, because you've already listened to it probably. But I actually had a great time. I listened to Good Omens, and I was like, okay, is this gonna hold up? And I was like, this really holds up. We
good.
had a good time. So yeah, so Good Omens discussion 1 and 2 are up, and I'll continue to populate that. But yeah, so we have this as a podcast archive.
Fun. Do we have a poll result?
I
The
didn't get
poll
the
is
poll.
still going. I'm actually going to let people continue to vote after the live video is over. But
Cool.
so far, it looks like the book is winning 75% to 25%,
Wow.
which means probably only 4 people have voted so far. But if you haven't seen the poll, I don't know, Facebook is weird and it doesn't do polls when you want them to. So I'm going to leave that up. Y'all can vote in it when you see it. Maybe you'll see it on Sunday when you come back. For
Yeah,
Adventures
we
in
come
Reading.
back for Adventures in Reading, and I would love to do Adventures in Readings with polls, but we've seen how
Yeah.
polls are with Facebook, so
No.
we're just gonna have comment section, and we can all hang out and just have a good time.
Now, if you're new to Literarily Wasted, remember that you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We are on all of the things. We also have a website where you can sign up for a non-existent newsletter that might be existent later in the future. Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
All right. Y'all can go back to reading now. We're done.
Or go to bed,
Yeah.
like I'm about to.
Read. Go to bed.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
See you next
Have a good night.
time.